Considering home security? Consider this. For 140 years, ADT has helped stop more crime than any other home security company. The yard sign isn't just a sign, it's a line in the sand. It's no wonder 5 times more people choose ADT to protect their homes. Visit ADT.com to learn more. For license information and terms and conditions, visit ADT.com.
Here we are. We're back and better than ever. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. I got a poll working this morning because the U.S. men aren't going to the World Cup. It is really an enormous story if you think about it. In any other country in the world, there'd be nothing else anyone was talking about, that the men's team did not qualify for the World Cup. They lost to Trinidad and Tobago last night, and that coupled with a couple of other unexpected results leave the American men on the outside looking in at the World Cup for the first time since 1986. I happened to see yesterday a video, I forget who tweeted it, but a man in Egypt where they hadn't been in the World Cup in, I think, 27, 8, whatever it is, years, and they made it. And they showed the video, this man who, fell to his knees crying with joy. This is the way this would be this sort of thing is reacted to in other countries. In this country, I'm really genuinely curious to know, and I have a poll question up at ESPN Greeny on Twitter, just how much people will care about this. Booger McFarland in for Golic today. What is your sense of just in the pantheon of what's going on? We're going to get into Strasburg and the Cubs and the Yankees and the Indians and the football and everything else that's happening. How much are people paying attention today to the fact that this is one of the great losses and missed opportunities that we've ever seen?
I think last night, Greeny, people were abuzz. Everyone was irate. Taylor Twellman was losing his mind as I went to bed last night. But I think you wake up this morning and people are like, okay, let's move on. I think in general, the casual soccer fan wants to get behind the World Cup because it unites everyone. Sports have a way of galvanizing the country, and God knows right now we need it. And when you can watch team play and it's country over individual, we're all behind it. We all see the red, white, and blue. And to me, it would have been an amazing thing to have us unite behind a flag when the conversation across America right now is so much about the flag. That's the one thing that I was looking forward to. If the U.S. men's national team could have made it, okay, we would have been representing our flag in the way that we all really agree upon, instead of all the infighting that we're having now by standing or kneeling or whatever. So I think overall, Greeny, to your point, it was a big deal last night. I think you wake up this morning and, after we cure ourselves of the sniffles and, we talk about the mold in Chicago, I think down the list somewhere will be the U.S. men's national team.
For people who really care about this, however, this was a devastating blow, a gut punch to the growth of soccer in this country, and that was given voice last night by our Taylor Twellman.
It's not just about tonight. And anyone at home, sitting at home, saying it's about the game against Trinidad and Tobago, 100% unequivocally, it is not about tonight. It is a complete embarrassment when you look at CONCACAF for the amount of resources and the amount of money that is put into our sport. Here's what I said. If you can't beat Panama at home and you can't beat Trinidad on the road, you don't deserve to go to the World Cup. It's not about tonight. It's not about Jurgen Klinsmann. It's not just about Bruce Arena. As a whole, U.S. soccer is not prepared. Every single one of those players,
they can take some
nightmares
Yep.
for the rest of their lives, because this is an utter embarrassment with the amount of money that is in Major League Soccer and in this sport. You can't get a draw, a tie against Trinidad? Max, you don't deserve to go to the World Cup.
And they are not. That was Taylor Twellman sort of speaking for everyone in this country to whom this is really important and personal. I think there are enormous business implications to this and much, much more, and personal implications. I mean, Trinidad and Tobago is a nation of 1.4 million people. We needed to beat them or at least get a draw against them last night to make it into the World Cup. It shouldn't have been a problem. Then they needed other things to go wrong, which did go wrong last night. But the Americans had it right there in the palm of their hand, and they let it get away. And so you hear just how upset Taylor is.
By the way, where was the game at last night? Was it a local high school field or something?
It is crazy. If you see the video of it, it's unbelievable. I mean, we'll show it up to you again a little bit here on ESPN2. And if you're listening on the radio, it does. The way you're right. It does not look like a major, huge international event where it's being played.
I mean, if you look at that end zone shot right there, you're like, There's a track around the field.
It is.
I'm like, is this a local high school field? They say, hey, can we borrow the field for a few hours?
Seriously, I'm with you. I don't know. I don't know exactly what the name of the stadium they were playing it in is, and there's nobody there. I mean, there's just nobody at this game. And I don't know if that contributed to some sort of a lackluster, lackadaisical approach the American team took. Whatever the case is,
Right.
I won't pretend to be nearly expert enough in soccer to give you a detailed breakdown of why this happened,
Right.
but it has happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there are a lot of people who are real upset about it. I'm also going to take issue with your commentary behind the scenes here about Taylor Twellman's suit. Taylor
about?
looks phenomenal in that suit.
He does, Greeny, but as a guy that weighs over 250, I weigh 282, I don't like the European cut suits because basically what European cut suits mean is, hey, let's take your skin measurement and then add a ½ inch. So if Taylor sat down, that button is flying off somewhere.
Listen, I have two comments.
Yes.
One of them is 282 pounds in Europe is two people. Okay, so that's why they don't have suits for people who weigh 280
Right.
pounds, because the largest European I've ever seen in my entire life is smaller than me.
Okay.
That's A. I wear a double X in most of the European styles. So that should give you an indication of just how small the people
Right.
we're talking about generally are. Second, and maybe more significantly, you were a man who once wore a short-sleeve suit. A short-sleeve suit to a major public occasion. Where were you?
I was in Los Angeles going to the ESPYs.
At the ESPYs?
Yes.
You went to the ESPYs.
2003.
2003.
Fashion was trying to come forward. We were trying
it
to
was
bring.
not.
No, it was.
never
It was.
been a time in the history of civilization
It was.
where a suit with short sleeves
Greeny.
was in style.
Greeny.
Yeah?
There was a trend I was trying to start overseas where you're speaking of.
Yeah?
Overseas, they were wearing the short sleeve suits.
Who? The managers of fast food restaurants? That's not other people.
People were wearing that. So me and my stylist Taylor, we got together and said, you know what? Here's what would be a great idea.
You have a stylist named Taylor?
No, me and my stylist / Taylor, the Taylor.
Oh, he is also a tailor.
Yes, he's also a tailor.
I thought you meant your stylist Taylor.
No. So we got together like, listen, you're in charge of this outfit. I'm going to the ESPYs. We're going to get team of the year, best team, whatever we got. I'm going to be on stage. So this is your big moment.
And he ran out of material, so he couldn't have sleeves?
It has nothing to do with the material. This is the way it was designed. With the ascot, the only thing I regret about it, is that I think it was too many buttons on it. It was like 6 buttons. And I'm only 6 feet tall. So that's a bit of an issue.
That's like 1 button per foot.
Well, basically. That's the only thing I regret. Other than that, the short sleeves were phenomenal. The ascot, I was wearing the ascot before Charles Woodson ever thought about wearing the ascot. So the outfit was great. It was a little baggy, but baggy was in back then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so as we're talking about the European cut, I don't see you as a guy that likes baggy things, but you also don't wear tight-fitting clothing either. So why are you kind of in between?
I mean, I think I do wear comparatively tight-fitting clothing.
No, it's not. It's not tight.
I mean, it's somewhere in between. I'm wearing normal-sized clothing.
Your shirt fit Mike Golick Jr., so it's not tight enough.
On him, it was extraordinarily tight.
But it fit him, though.
Yeah, because I'm bigger than you think I am. That's the point.
Dude, you're $175.
Exactly right. But $175 by normal human standards is not so small. You walk down the Champs-Élysées, people are walking away from me.
Walk
I'm
down
so
where?
big. It's in France.
Okay, I've never been there.
Okay, let's move on. Mike and Mike, the road to the World Series goes through ESPN Radio. Check all the postseason action out, presented by AutoZone right here on ESPN Radio, ESPNRadio.com, and the ESPN app. We got both games today. We got the Yankees and Indians for all the marbles tonight. And before that, we'll be in Wrigley Field, where the Nationals will try and keep their season alive against the Chicago Cubs. And they will do it without Steven Strasburg in a decision that has been both mocked and met with complete shock. Strasburg is not taking the ball tonight, despite the fact that he'd be on his regular rest. Tanner Roark will be doing the pitching for the Nats. And Dusty Baker was in the position of explaining why that is yesterday.
He was slated. Didn't work out for Strauss with his bullpen day. And, we're all creatures of habit. And plus, we got full confidence in Tanner and Strauss. It'd have been better because he's feeling under the weather like a lot of my team is.
So Strasburg is feeling under the weather, as a lot of the team is. So Dusty was asked to expand on that thought, and it got a whole lot worse.
A lot of my team is kind of under the weather with the change of weather and the air conditioning in the hotel and the air conditioning here. And this is the time of the year for mold around Chicago. I think it's mold because I have it too.
Huh. So we got mold and we got air conditioning. And as a consequence, Steven Strasburg, who was a contract worth $175 million, who was allowed 0 earned runs in 7 of his last 8 starts, and would today have been pitching on his regular 4 days of rest, will not take the ball. Booger, this is really, really startling.
Tells me he doesn't want it, Greeny. And as a manager, you can't force him to pitch. As a manager, all you can do is try to protect your players. Dusty's never going to throw Steven under the bus. But Greeny, think about this. Normally, in a position such as Strasburg is in right now, he's got his money. He's got his $175 million guaranteed. A few years ago, they were trying to protect him with his arm. Scott Boras, the pitch count. I get it. You're thinking long term. Well, what are you protecting yourself from now? You've got your $175 million right now. So what's the reason that you really don't want to go pitch? Are you scared of the moment? I wouldn't think so, because you've pitched in big games before. So are you scared of this moment? Is this moment too big for you? Like, that's the one thing that Dusty has tried to answer the questions. I can't wait to hear from Steven Strasburg. And here's the kicker. So the mold is such in the air that he can't start, and the sniffles are so bad that he can't start. But if they get in a tight situation, something tells me Steven Strasburg is coming in the game. So is the Dayquil going to kick in a little later? Can you take it a little early or something? I'm just not sure how this comes off in any way, shape, or form looking good for Dusty Baker. Dusty will look good. I say that. Dusty will look good because players will respect him because he's taking up for his players. But from Steven Strasburg's point, there's no way, shape, or form he's going to come off as looking any way but a guy that doesn't want to pitch for his team.
Right. So when I first heard this yesterday, I thought there has to be some way of explaining this that I'm not seeing.
Right.
And so I was very interested in listening to David Ross and Mark Teixeira talking about it last night on Baseball Tonight. And as it turns out, I'm not missing anything. Here's Rossi.
Steven Strasburg has got to look himself in the mirror. I mean, if I'm his teammate, I'm pissed. Like, what do you mean? We give you $175 million? What are you worried about? Like, if you're injured, you're set up for life. I'm ticked, man. I mean, I don't know. You want to know why the Washington Nationals don't win? Everybody will ask, like, the numbers, right? You want to know? Right there. You got a guy that doesn't want the ball.
That was David Ross. I also have Mark Teixeira. In case maybe that was just one reaction out of many, here was Mark Teixeira. We lost it. I'm being told to vamp for 5 seconds, but I can assure you it's going to be worth the wait because Teixeira took a similar tack, and he's a guy who has won the World Series as Rossi did last year. Here's Teixeira.
I don't know what's more bizarre here. The fact that Strasburg said he's not willing to pitch because he's a little sick, or that Dusty Baker basically just lied about it on national television in front of all of the world. I mean, this is just a very weird situation. This is the playoffs. This is your chance, to break through and finally do something great for the Nationals. And your star pitcher has a sniffle or maybe under the weather, and then your manager can't give a clear explanation. I don't know what's going on here.
So, what are we supposed to make of this? I mean, I really do. I don't like, all kidding aside, and we've been doing some kidding around about it here. I never like to question the toughness of an athlete. I believe you have to be extraordinarily tough, both physically and mentally, to make it to the pinnacle of these sports, as you, Booger, did, and as Mike Golick did, and as all of you who work here and everywhere else did, and as Steven Strasburg has. And yet I find this inexplicable. I mean, the history of the sport, the legendary stories, the greatest legends in baseball history generally are the pitchers who took the ball on short rest. Give me the ball, I'm going out there. And Pedro Martinez going in there and in relief, and Madison Bumgarner and all these different guys, and Schilling with the bloody sock, and Sandy Koufax couldn't lift his arm up and all that kind of stuff. So the fact that the explanation that's being given, I mean, lie to us. Give us something. I mean, the fact that they're actually putting out there that he's feeling under the weather and that it might be a combination of the mold or the air conditioning is just stunning.
Greeny, here's the thing about it. If you're Steven Strasburg and you're supposed to take the mound, okay, that's what you do. And the fact that he didn't do that, or he's not going to do that, to me, as I said earlier, it's a long-term issue now. I just wonder how he'll be viewed in that locker room. And now, and more importantly, I think the conversation shifts from, okay, What about Strasburg? To now all of his teammates have to answer those questions. So now the focus isn't on this game, that's just this huge do-or-die playoff game. The focus is on how come the guy on the mound is not Steven Strasburg. And so the attention to detail is not going to be there. And by and large, Rossi said it best. Now you understand why the Nationals have been a largely underachieving franchise with all the wealth of talent they've had. Like, we've been waiting on this group to take that next step. All the talent with Zimmerman and Gio and everybody that they have, and Dusty, they changed managers. We've all been waiting on that. And now maybe you get just a glimpse of why they haven't. Because maybe their best, arguably their best pitcher, maybe a little selfish. Because this is selfish. This is a selfish move when everybody else on that roster is depending on you to take the ball, step on the mound. And the fact that he's not doing that, I can't come up with another explanation that would make me say, okay, I get it. Because right now, it seems like a selfish move.
This just can't be right.
But what else is there?
Well, what I'm about to read you. So this is from USA Today. And please don't get me wrong. I'm not casting aspersions upon their reporting. I have great respect for them. So I'm sort of saying this rhetorically. It can't be right. Strasburg informed the national staff that he ran a half-mile Tuesday afternoon, was wheezing during his run, and simply isn't prepared to start Wednesday, even though he'd be on regular rest, according to a person with direct knowledge of the Nationals' pitching plans. What? Hold on a minute. He ran a half mile.
Yeah.
Ran a half mile? A half mile.
Stop.
I don't understand this. He's a pitcher. He's a baseball player. You don't run a half mile anywhere. You could hit an inside the park home run. It's not a half mile. When's he running a half mile?
He just wanted to loosen up a little bit.
Why is he running a half mile? What's the first question? Did he walk in and say, guys, I just ran a half mile, and there was the answer, why the hell did you do that? I mean, what the hell was the point of that? Why are you running a half mile? I know I'm turning this into a joke, but I don't understand any way this can seriously be happening. I mean, how in the world is a $175 million pitcher not pitching in a season-deciding game, in an elimination game, because he was wheezing during a half-mile run because of mold and air conditioning? This is new. I mean, we have broken new ground here, Booger. I don't know. I really honestly don't know what to say.
Well, and then also, what's going on in Chicago with all this mold?
We got to get to the bottom.
Have we talked to the mayor?
Get Rahm Emanuel on the phone.
Can we get the mayor?
Seriously, we got a major mold problem.
Yeah.
We got to do something about the air conditioning.
Can we get Serve Pro?
Whatever hotel they're staying in, where do the visiting teams usually stay now? Years ago, they used to stay at the Westin on Michigan Avenue. I have no idea if that's still where they are. But wherever they are, they obviously have a major air conditioning problem. We got to look into that. And now we got mold issues in Chicago. Don't anyone, and by the way, this is a warning to all of you listening to us on ESPN 1000 in Chicago. Don't go for a run today.
No,
whatever
exactly.
you do,
yeah.
Don't run a half mile, because if you're wheezing, we got issues. I mean, I'm stunned by this. Well, Booger, I don't know what to say.
Green, and the fact that he's wheezing, okay.
He's wheezing.
Well, I mean, I have something for the wheezing. He can get a nebulizer.
I don't even know what that is, and it sounds good to me.
Okay, listen, my kids are younger than yours, and so sometimes they wheeze when they get sick.
Sure.
And you use a nebulizer.
What is that exactly?
It basically is a machine that you put on them. It's like a breathing machine, helps them breathe.
Okay.
Sure. I can send one.
Yeah.
To Steven Strasburg.
Yeah.
Treatment takes about 2 minutes.
Can you just walk into a place and buy that, or is that like a prescription thing?
I mean, it's a prescription thing, but it shouldn't be hard.
Fair enough. Well, let's get you what is it?
A nebulizer.
A nebulizer. Whatever it is. I mean, this just does not make any sense. I know that we're sort of making this into a joke now, and there's a part of me that feels kind of bad doing it because we're just bashing, the toughness of a player, but this really does feel like it is almost breaking new ground.
And Greeny, even if he ran a half a mile, which he said he did.
He ran a half a mile.
And he was wheezing.
Okay,
normally when I get a cold, when I'm sick and I run and I sweat it out, I feel better.
Much better.
So how can you inform them that, hey, you know what? I didn't feel good, and tomorrow I'm not going to feel good either. Like, it almost seems as if this guy is saying, you know what? This moment might just be a little big. I do not want to believe that because I've always followed Steven Strasburg from San Diego State to his first game when he K-14. I think it was Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yeah, it was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. Like, I've always rooted for this guy.
And then I never blamed him when they didn't let him pitch in the playoffs that year because I don't know what influence he had in that and didn't, and I don't know what influence his agents had in that and didn't. But at the end of the day, I got it.
Yeah.
Okay. But now he's got the contract.
Yeah.
They wanted to make sure that nothing bad happened to that arm before he got the $175 million. But now he has the $175
my arm can fall off.
million.
We'll sew it back on.
His arm falls off. He's, he can buy another one. I mean, so that's the part of this, and he can buy as many what is it? Nebulizers as you need.
Have you never used one of those?
Well, obviously not. I don't even know what it is. How could I have used one of those? You know what I used to get, like that Vicks, the little Vicks thing that you take the top off, you stick it up your nostril, and you go like that, and then it sort of get that menthol going up in there.
When you have 3-4-years-olds, you can't do that. So you have to.
You have 3-4-years-olds?
No, 3 and 4-year-olds.
I'm sorry.
Right,
I thought you said you had 3-4-years-olds.
No, if I did that, I wouldn't be sitting here.
I was going to say, that's a lot of 4-year-olds.
No, but like when my kids were younger, sometime when they get sick with the colds and things of that nature, you have to figure out a way to help them breathe at night. And so the nebulizer is one of the things that the doctor would prescribe, where you can put a little solution in there and it helps them breathe. Obviously, you didn't use it. Obviously, your kids just suffered through colds and snot running everywhere. I didn't allow my kids to do that, Greeny. So, hey, Well,
you're a better parent than I, but there was never any debate about that. The only question that I would have at this point is, can we get like one of our doctors on, our medical staff on, someone like that to get to the bottom of what we do, if we've got issues with the mold and the air conditioning. All right, so that's that situation. And then, of course, we have Game 5 tonight with the Indians and the Yankees. Winner moves on. If you're watching on ESPN2, you heard both David Ross and Mark Teixeira say they think the Yankees are going to win, that there feels like it's a little bit of magic going on. And I would only say that conventional wisdom stands directly in the face of that, because as long as the game has been played, you judge who you think is going to win a game by who's the starting pitcher.
Correct.
And in this game, despite what happened in Game 2, and Sabathia was great, and he's a horse, and I would not at all be surprised if he pitches a really good game tonight. But, you're sending Corey Kluber out there. He is going to walk out of this season with a Cy Young Award.
Yeah.
That's how you're supposed to pick these games. I mean, conventional wisdom says they're supposed to win this game. We'll see if that happens.
Hey, everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
Home isn't just a place, it's a feeling that you're safe to enjoy the things that matter most. ADT lets you take that feeling with you, whether you're at home, your business, or online. We help keep you safe with security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling for less than $1 a day. ADT. Home. Safe home.
Mike and Mike Booger McFarland in for Golick today. We'll get Brad Stevens, coach of the Celtics, in just a second. But two quick things just to sort of wrap up, if you will, our conversation about the mold and the air conditioning and the running a half mile and the wheezing and Steven Strasburg not pitching.
Right.
It is we are being reminded by what feels like thousands of people on Twitter something that I had forgotten. This weekend was the marathon in Chicago.
Yeah.
So unless the mold content has grown so dramatically.
Maybe it's late developing mold.
In the last 2 days. But not only late developing, but it's got to be fast developing. This mold went from 0 to 60 in like the blink of an eye. People ran 26 miles in these conditions. And then my buddy Tim Dugan texted me. He wrote, I realize this is your job, but all of Chicago would like you to stop talking about this. We do not want the media to shame Strasburg into starting this game or coming in relief. We are perfectly happy with the mold and air conditioning explanation. So I wrote back to him, how bad is the mold? And he wrote, I know nothing of mold. I don't know if he was speaking about outdoor allergies or anything else. It's just crazy. So, I mean, he lives in Chicago, and he is not aware of what the mold issue is that we're talking about.
Here's what I tell you, buddy, right now, Tim. You want Strasburg on the mound right now because mentally he's not ready.
Yeah.
So if somehow he's forced into starting, you want him there because he can be the greatest physical specimen ever. If his mind not right, Greeny, he's not going to pitch good.
Okay, fair enough. Mike and Mike Booger is here. Let's change subjects. We're a week away from the start of the NBA regular season. Earlier than usual start as they expand the season a little bit to try and work their way through some changes in the scheduling, which hopefully will result in fewer players resting and all the rest of that. And one of the teams that will have a brand new look and a lot of expectations, the Boston Celtics and their head coach, Brad Stevens, is back with us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Coach, it's Mike and Booger McFarland in with me today. How you been?
I'm great, guys. How are you?
Good, Coach.
I'm well, and we are well, and we are looking forward to seeing what your team looks like, because obviously it'll be an entirely different look. After what was a really good year last year where you finished with the 1 seed, you made wholesale changes, and the biggest of them, of course, is bringing in Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward in free agency. So let's just start from its most basic. When you have as many new faces as you have, what are the first and biggest challenges as you get a season started?
Well, I think you always look to try to figure out the strengths of your team, what they've done in the past, if they've played, at this level and performed at this level before, how to try to mix those strengths together. And, I think that you do start the season with certain objectives of, for us, it's been trying to play with a high motor on both ends of the court, being able to learn each other, to read and react off of each other, both offensively and defensively. And, it's been a good start. It's hard to believe we're only 2 weeks in, and tonight's our last exhibition game, and then we open up in 6 days. But here we go.
Brad, as a guy myself that was traded from one team to another, I know what it's like to come in. There's an acclimation period. I'm curious, how has the acclimation period been for Kyrie adjusting to his new team? Now you bring in Gordon Hayward. How have you handled that and made him more comfortable?
I think that those are probably questions that those guys can answer better. But we've only got 4 guys back from last season. So it's really an acclimation period, not only for, Kyrie and Gordon, but for most of our team, and then even for our returners, because, they haven't played with a lot of these guys. In the first few games here, we've started 2 guys that are returning and brought 2 guys off the bench that are returning. And I think, there is going to be some learning and growing together, but the general attitude, the work, the desire to do things together, the desire to compete and practice, it's been a really enjoyable couple of weeks. I mean, I think that these guys recognize that we've got to get better, and at the same time are enjoying that process together. And I think there's some things that we tried to do by going away for the first few days of training camp, which we have not done the past couple of years, and scheduling every meal together and those type of things. But then, at the end of the day, when you're competing together, it's more about learning and growing on that practice court and through game experience. And so I think there's some things that you can try to expedite in building a team, and then there's some things that just have to happen organically. And we're just trying to do what we do as well as we can every day so that we can expedite it as much as we can.
Game tonight, Celtics and Hornets, 7 Eastern on ESPN. Preseason action followed by the Rockets and the Grizzlies. Brad Stevens, head coach of the Celtics, is with us. And I opened it up by saying you guys start your regular season earlier than in years past. And that's one of the many things, and I commend him for it, the commissioner is trying to do to try and cut into the idea of resting regular season games and all the rest of that. How do you expect the schedule this year to impact scheduling, if you will, or the playing from different teams around the league? How will it impact, if at all, the way you approach the season, and how do you expect it to impact other teams?
Yeah, I'm really interested to see. If you talk to a number of players, obviously the extra days provides, or 8 days or whatever it is, provides. I don't think there are many, if any, 4 games in 5 nights. It lessens the number of back-to-backs. Now, if you talk to a few players, they actually say that they prefer the back-to-back because they know the next day is off for sure. And so I think that it'll be interesting to see how it all works over the course of time. But clearly, I love the intent and the thought behind, prioritizing and maximizing the rest factor and the health of our players within our schedule. And, I think that those discussions, this is probably the start of those discussions. I know that Commissioner Silver has been interviewed in a lot of different areas about length of season and game, et cetera. And, I think those are all relevant topics, and, we'll see what plays out over the next few years.
You know, Coach, I've heard the experts talk about how the move with Kyrie and how all the moves make you a better team. I'd love to hear your explanation. How does having Kyrie at the point guard position instead of Isaiah Thomas and some of the other moves, how does that make you a better team in your mind?
Well, first of all, the only answer is time will tell, right? I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. And I really like the group that we have. And I've said this before, you know, when you make the moves that we made this summer, when you're in the coaching position or a playing position, and everybody else around too, there's an emotional cost when you make those moves because of the impact that those players not only had on the team, but more so on you, and more so on the people in the locker room. And so I think that, and those guys that are no longer here, Isaiah obviously included, like I think that those guys had a tremendous run, and those guys did things that, you know, made it fun to be around them every single day, and they know that I could not appreciate them more. And as we move forward with this team, I think the biggest thing is that this team has to become the best that it can be, doing what it does well. And so every season is its own entity. Every game is its own entity. You know, you go into the game, and if you don't approach it right, or if you don't play to your strengths, or if you don't do what you do best, you're going to have a great chance of getting beat. And for us, we just have to focus on who we have again, how we can play to the best of our ability and accentuate each other's strengths, and we'll see what happens. But, you know, time will tell if we're better or not.
It's Brad Stevens, head coach of the Celtics, again, opening next week in Cleveland. That should be interesting. Kyrie Irving going back to Cleveland in your very first game. Have you already had a conversation with him about what that's going to be like? We've seen star players going back to their previous cities and the reaction that they frequently tend to get. Have you already talked with him about what the expectations are for that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for us, Mike, is that, first of all, when you look at it, when in my position, you're looking at it and say, okay, we opened the season with Cleveland. Oh, by the way, the next night we play Milwaukee at home. Really good team, right? So we're looking at it from the standpoint of how do we prepare ourselves to play well through 82 games. And so obviously Cleveland being the first game, there will be a lot of buzz, a lot of attention, et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, everything we're working on is trying to be able to focus on our task at hand in the moment. And the great part about playing in a game like that is it will bring you right back to high-level basketball right out of the gate, because you're going to have to perform without concerning yourself with the distractions if you even want to have a chance to win the game. And so ultimately that's a great thing for our team in its young stages to have to go through early. And regardless of result, I'm looking forward to seeing how we progress from there.
And we're looking forward to watching it. Coach, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much. Good luck as your season gets started.
Thanks, Coach.
Bye, guys.
It's Brad Stevens, head coach of the Celtics. Again, it's been fascinating. And Hembo just sent me something that I find really surprising. But our nerds, our basketball power index, say Boston is 14% more likely to reach the NBA Finals this year than Cleveland. Our model views them as comparable offensive teams, but the Celtics as being much better on defense. Now, bear in mind, these teams met last year in the conference finals, and Cleveland outscored Boston by 100 points. Now, Boston has completely turned over its roster. They have 4 guys left from that last year, and Isaiah Thomas will be on the Cavaliers as soon as he's healthy enough to play. But you got Hayward, and you got Kyrie, you got all these other new faces. And for what it's worth, our analytics say they have a better chance of winning the Eastern Conference than the Cavaliers do. Not the regular season, but to get to the finals. You agree or disagree? I'll get your answer next. Plus more on the mold in Chicago and everything else jam-packed on a Wednesday. Mike and Mike.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I've never felt more alive.
Disclaimer. Geico cannot guarantee you will feel more alive. You either possess functioning respiratory and circulatory systems, or you do not, or you are a zombie. If you are indeed a brain-starved zombie and you would like to save money on car insurance, the Geico legal team applauds your excellent life choices, even in your shambling afterlife. But we strongly encourage you to visit geico.com or download the Geico app. Please stay a minimum of 500 feet away from our large and presumably delicious, delicious brains.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
People reacting like crazy to Steven Strasburg. The explanation again given for why he's not starting today on regular rest. being that he's feeling under the weather. The reporting, Dusty Baker talking about mold and air conditioning, and the reporting in the USA Today that he ran a half a mile and was wheezing.
Who looks worse, him or Dusty?
Oh, Strasburg looks way worse. Everyone understands that Dusty is trying to defend his player.
Right, but he's lying. He's blatantly lying to us.
Listen,
in some
I
form.
understand people lying to me. Okay,
right.
I get that. And I listen. Honesty is the best policy. I tell that to my kids, right. And that is a good way to live your life. But the God's honest truth is it's not a good way to live a public life, right? Sometimes you got to tell a little white lie. Don't get up there and tell me that you can't pitch because it's moldy and there's air conditioning issues and all of that. Make something up. Pretend you fell in the shower. I mean, say something that makes some semblance of sense, because otherwise he's just going to get eviscerated, which is being eviscerated right now. The Chicago Marathon was run over the weekend. 9 octogenarians finished it. 9 people over the age of 80 ran 26 miles in that mold over the weekend. This guy was wheezing on a half-mile run. I mean, it is unbelievable. Here, Jack Yu, he's 83 years old. He ran the marathon in 4 hours, 31 minutes, and 59 seconds. He won the octogenarian group.
He could have beat me. I knew that.
He could have beat a whole lot of people. So, I mean, this is just a startling circumstance, and I don't know what to say about it. And according to the Washington Post, the Nationals asked Strasburg if he could pitch on Wednesday. He said, quote, "I'll give you what I got," according to GM Mike Rizzo.
I'll give you what I got.
I'll give you what I got. Straight Talk Wireless nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. I mean, this is something that, unless some further explanation of it, some more understandable or acceptable explanation of it comes out, this is the kind of thing that's tough to live down.
Well, it's going to be tough for him to overcome. And we thought the Nationals were a little dysfunctional. If you go back when Bryce Harper got choked out by Jonathan Papelbon, we were kind of wondering what was going on with that situation. Now this gives you another little sneak peek into that locker room. And I got to tell you, Greeny, when your best players aren't your most unselfish, these are the kind of things that come out of team environment.
But I don't understand the selfish piece of this. That's where this is confusing me. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
If this was about a contract, if this was about money, but this is not his elbow is bothering him, which could jeopardize the remainder of his career or anything like that. And it's not about the contract because he got the contract. You know, and look, maybe the other side of this is if he really doesn't feel like he can give the team a quality start, then maybe on some levels it's unselfish.
But don't you at least have to try, though?
That's my point.
I mean, you should at least have to try.
In sports, what we expect, what we have been conditioned to expect is guys saying, you're going to have to rip this ball out of my hand.
Right.
We're conditioned to remember Michael Jordan in the flu game in Salt Lake City being carried back to the bench by Scottie Pippen and having one of the great and maybe one of the most legendary games of his career. And the general manager, Rizzo, said, we think it's smarter to give him the extra day to get better and hopefully have him at full strength if we get to a Game 5. But this is an elimination game. Yeah. There is no Game 5 if you don't win Game 4.
And the reason I say it's selfish, Greeny, is because it's his health. Okay, so he's concerned about his own health.
But he's not in a big picture. He's not. Is this going to make him so much worse? What, is he going to get a worse cold? Is he going to get pneumonia?
That's what makes it look worse. The fact that it is a cold. It is the sniffles. He's concerned about his health. Evidently, otherwise, why would he have a reason not to step out there on the mound? He's got his money. He's not concerned about his arm. He's concerned about the sniffles.
Max Scherzer, this is also in the Washington Post. Max Scherzer marched into Dusty's office Tuesday morning and announced he'd be available for an inning in Game 4 if needed. He probably wouldn't be able to give the Nationals much after throwing 98 pitches on Monday, but a person familiar with the situation said the Nationals will be willing to take Scherzer up on his offer. Boy, does that look even worse. So,
listen, I can't pitch. I'm wheezing. The guy that just threw 100 pitches says, you know what? I can give you another inning. How bad does that look?
Oh, and again, he's got what is his contract? How many millions of dollars is Scherzer's? I mean, he's the highest paid pitcher in baseball, right? If he's not, he's close. He got the huge contract, but so is Strasburg's. I mean, it's just a terrible situation. There's something about the whole thing that makes me feel bad. I feel bad for the degree of piling on that we're doing here, but I honestly don't know what else to say.
Yeah, they brought you to a new low. You're basically encouraging our national audience to lie. You've made fun of Steven Strasburg. You don't know what a nebulizer is. Like, they brought you to a new low this morning.
It is true. I don't know what a nebulizer is. All right, we are Mike and Mike. We got the two baseball games today. You'll hear them both on ESPN Radio. You will hear the Nationals and the Cubs as Washington tries to keep its season alive and get the ball to Strasburg if he's able to pitch tomorrow, depending on the wheezing. And then you got the Yankees and the Indians tonight. And we've got, if you want, the bobblehead contest is going. Stace has a predict the score contest with Indians, Yankees for tonight. So if you want to try and get in on that, you could win the Mike and Mike signed bobbleheads on Twitter at StacyGSG. Up next, Will Kane is here in the Scott's Lounge. I wonder if we have a few things to discuss with him. Obviously, plenty on the table, including Booger's thoughts of earlier this morning. We'll get to that and more as we continue next. Mike and Mike.